Hey everyone, we are excited to be diving into another episode of Anchor of Hope, our own podcast here at Spero Family Services, where I'm your host, Caritas Family. Today I have two amazing millennials with me. I have Kristen Malone of Caritas, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I also have one of our very own from here at Spero Family Services, Taylor Stockman. Both of these women are in foster care, and I'm going to just let them say hello and introduce themselves first. Kirsten?
Hi, I am Kristen Malone. Like Carlika said, I work at Caritas Family Solutions, and I also am a foster and adoptive parent.
I am Taylor Stockman. I am a foster parent, and I am also the foster care supervisor at Spero as well.
Our topic for today, thank you ladies, our topic of discussion today is from office to home. And so we're going to dig a little deeper into what that actually means, because both of these ladies are actually foster parents. So we're going to cover all things fostering. We're going to cover a little bit about adoption and how they got started. So the backstory, if Kirsten doesn't mind, and I don't think that she will, is they actually started as millennials in their early 20s. And as far as I'm concerned, that's unheard of, especially in this day and age. And so while I know both of them personally, actually met Kirsten first. So we were actually previously co-workers for District 80 in the social services department. And I know I wasn't there a good week before I learned of how old she was and that you were also a single foster care mom. And so I'm in her office like, girl, I was like, wait a minute, you are how old? And you have, foster care babies. And then fast forward to last year when I met Taylor right here, who's is my boss. And actually I found out the same thing about her. I'm like, hold on. I just find it to be so commendable, if I could be honest. And so what was on your brain? Like, tell me what were you thinking? What was happening in your life when you made a decision to start fostering?
Mm-hmm. I'll go first. I became a foster parent in 2020. I had previously been a foster care caseworker, and then, like Carlika said, I was working for District 80 as the school social worker after I had gotten my master's degree. I had left casework and had gone to working at a school, and 2020, obviously COVID hit, and it kind of sent the world into a spiral. And I was talking to one of my coworkers who had previously worked at Caritas with me, and they were just talking about kind of the crisis that was foster care. And we all know that there's always a need for foster parents, whether that's 2020 or now. There's always kind of been a crisis in foster care and a lack of foster parents, but COVID kind of sent that into just brought that awareness to the surface of people weren't wanting new people in their home. People had kind of closed their homes or temporarily said, hey, we're not taking placements. And so it was what we would call a foster care crisis. And so that's kind of how I got into getting my license. I think I knew I'd probably always end up here. Did I imagine and be 24 and single with 3 kiddos? No.
Yes.
But that's kind of how that all started.
Okay, just because in my world, I know what I was doing when I was 24 or 25, and I just, a light bulb just went off like, oh my gosh, it speaks volumes, not just about you two as women, but human beings, period. And so again, I hate to sound redundant, but I think it's commendable because it says a lot about your passion and, like I said, who you are as human beings. Taylor?
Yes.
Drop the juice and squeeze.
Okay, I will. I became a foster parent in 2018. I actually worked for Hoyleton Youth and Family Services at that time. There was a youth there who she drew at my heartstrings. I could tell that there was already that bond, that connection, that attachment piece that was there. If you know anything about Hoyleton, those youth have intellectual disabilities, and majority of the time, their next step in their life is not always the best. So she was going to have to be going into a SILA and also going to have a state guardian. She did not have very many family members, no supports. I could not walk away from that, knowing that I could be that support and be that person for her. So I started actually as a home effective kin placement and then grew to become a licensed foster parent. And that's kind of where it started. And I also, just like Kirsten, I had just gotten my master's degree the year before. That is like my first big girl job that I had. And that is something that obviously I've grown to love and enjoy, because here I am today still with another kiddo as well.
Yes, I love it. So a little bit more about the actual process. What did that look like for you guys?
So like the getting licensed process? Yes. So I was a licensed traditional foster parent for my first 2 placements that are twins. And then this is kind of a little backstory. I don't know if Carly knows this. My 3rd placement was a fictive kin placement. I was already a licensed provider at the time, but he was a youth that I had met when I worked at the school. So he was in kindergarten when we first met. And we spent a lot of time together. And so if you know what the school social worker does, I'm like, I'll let everyone else decide whether that's a good thing or not. No, we spent a lot of time together. But when I say we spent every day together at some point, we spent every day together. And so that was his kindergarten year. He ended up moving out of district. He had been in and out of several placements. He moved out of district to what was supposed to be his forever family. And I don't know if this is too much information, but in January of 2020, so I had known him from August to January of 2020, my church launched this, they called it Pray for One, and they told us to commit to praying for one person every single day and write their name down, and so I wrote his name down.
Of course.
And come March, he moves out of district, like I said, with what's supposed to be his forever family, and I was like, thank you, Lord. So I still committed to praying for him and just for his forever home and healing and all the things for him. And then 18 months later, close to the end of 2021, I got a phone call for him. And since then, I had already taken two traditional placements. I was in the middle of buying a home. We were moving. Closed on the home the day before he came to live with me. So it was just a very hectic time.
You had a lot going on.
Yes, a lot going on. But I knew it was my yes to him.
So it was a lot of sacrifices involved, though.
Yes.
Yeah, that you navigated through successfully. That speaks volumes too. What about your process?
Well, and a little side piece to that, I'm actually the one who placed her, her little
Okay.
guy in her home. I was not her
Okay.
caseworker at that time, so I also got to see that happen. In regards to the licensing process, mine was a little bit different. I was not a traditional placement. I was a home effective kin is how I started. And then I actually became a specialized licensed home through Spero at that time. And it was a fairly easy process. Of course, though, like I kind of had that back knowledge already of like what was needed, what was required. So it was a fairly seamless process.
Okay. Awesome. So let's take a detour because it's a twist on your story. So I want to chat about this just because I think it will expose a lot and be like an aha moment maybe to some of our listeners too. So while you're in the thick of things, you're this single foster care mom. I remember like, what is her dating like? Like, does she even date? So fast forward to now you're married.
Yes.
So there was lots of transitions, lots of probably ebbs and flows. You started dating. First of all, I don't even know your husband, but he has to be as amazing as you. He has to, because this is a huge responsibility. You had a ready-made family. He said yes. Evidently it worked. You have this beautiful life now. So can you tell us what that looked like? Dating, getting engaged, getting married, and now you have this combined amazing family and a new little one of your own.
Yes.
First of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats for so many reasons, but tell us what that looked like.
Yeah, so clearly dating when you have 3 kids brings about its own challenges, let alone 3 kids that aren't really your children. And so I can probably count on both of our hands combined the amount of times that me and my husband have actually gone on a date somewhere. But I think it does bring about its own challenges in obvious ways. But I knew for the things that my kiddos had experienced and just different traumas that they had already had, that I wanted to be really cautious before he came around the kids.
Okay.
And so we actually dated for I don't know. It sounds, when you're grown, like, oh, I had a boyfriend, like that's weird. But we dated for a significant period of time before he met the kids.
Absolutely.
We knew that we were going to be getting engaged and married. By the time that he met the kids, just like out of precautions of I didn't want to bring someone in, and then
Of course.
but yeah, it brought about its own challenges, and it just kind of. And I don't know, we might get to this in a little bit more depth later, but when you become a foster parent, it's very, there's some people who are not on board. There's lots of comments, all of that. And so we kind of experienced that all over again 2 years later when my husband got on board, just with comments, family not overly supportive, different friends and things like that, comments of like, are you sure that's what you want to get into? Like, oh, why,
How did that make you feel? How did that make you guys feel?
It was, I almost felt like triggered of like, this is everything that I experienced when I originally became a foster mom, and now my husband is experiencing that as well. But I also think when you're committed and you know your call, you have to care about that more than you care about the opinions of others. And so sometimes it looks like your circle getting a little bit smaller, and you're putting appropriate boundaries in for your family. But it was, from the outside looking in, like I had to watch my husband kind of grieve all of those same things that I had, 2 years prior.
Yeah. But the flip side of that is, for me, it's possible. Like, it's possible. If the both of you really want it, like, no matter the demographic of who you are, single, married, dating, it's possible, and it can very much be a beautiful thing. What does the balance look like now? The balancing act of all of the things.
Of like between my husband and I.
Yes, married life, fostering. I mean, you have a new baby.
Yes.
So what does that look like? Because it's a blended family.
Yes.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. It's difficult. I'd say the transition at first is difficult because I 100% carried the weight of parenting until my husband and I got married, and we bought a house together and all the things. And so that transition period of like, oh, like he's no longer here like just for fun. He is a parent, and so the kids are learning and adjusting to that as well as you as the mom and wife are learning to like, it's okay to let him do things, and not feeling the guilt of, oh, well, he handled that today, not me, because he is their dad. He made that decision and he chose that. And so I still struggle with that a little bit, I think. But it's just a learning curve for all involved. And now we have a new little baby, and so it's just there's a lot going on in the house.
It is. Well, you guys definitely make it look easy, but I appreciate your transparency with that. Taylor, can we talk challenges all the time, okay? That's our life every day. But what specifically, like personally, are some challenges that you face?
In regards to fostering, and then also playing the role of, not only am I living it at home, I'm living it in the work as well. The lack of support and the lack of just overall understanding is really huge, on top of maybe a lack of resources. But just people,
every aspect,
like all of it,
so much of that.
That's the real. Just like Kristen kind of touched on, your circle becomes smaller. Not everybody understands that, like, okay, whenever you choose not to go to maybe this huge family event because your child is not going to do well there, that's a sacrifice that you make, and people from the outside just don't recognize why. They don't take into consideration, like, that kiddo has trauma. It may be too loud in there. It just may not be a good idea. So just always those types of comments that you get. Are you sure this is what you want your life to look like? Did you not want children of your own? That has been a very big challenge for me. And also just like that support system, it's not always there. Because when you live and breathe foster care, like, you need a minute to breathe yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's very difficult because you don't have a babysitter. You don't have somebody that can just come hang out with your kids just for a short period of time. Like, I would love to go to Walmart by myself. As much as I hate that store, I would love that opportunity. And then regarding the lack of resources, my kids in particular, have super challenging mental health needs. And so they require a very, service that is tailored to them. And just in our area, there's a lack of it.
Okay. Agreed.
And quality of service too.
I want to go back to needing a minute. Because all parents, period, need a minute. And then when you're fostering, and then you live foster care at work, what does that look like? How often does it happen? When you get a chance, what does your support system look like? When you need a minute, Just explain that to me. What does it look like? When does it happen?
For me, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't happen. I
Okay.
am that single mom. One of my kiddos, like, she does not do well with other people caring for her during that time. So my free minutes are very few and
When
far
they're
between. Right.
And like work is my vacation.
Okay.
Like,
That's your taking time away from home. That's the time that you get away from
Yes.
home. And so,
Yeah.
okay.
I would say the same for me and my husband. Yes, I have my husband's help, but as far as external supports, that's very limited. And I think part of that is just lack of understanding. You know, partly because like, oh, from the outside looking in, you guys look like you got it all together.
You
And
do.
I often tell my husband, like, if people only knew, maybe they'd be more willing to
Yeah.
help. Like, if people didn't think they had it all together,
They got this
maybe
together.
they would be more willing
They
to
got it
help.
together.
I also think it's just lack of understanding like our kiddos' needs and then how to appropriately address that. So like we can't just call a babysitter and have them
Right.
because of just different needs and behaviors of our kiddos. And so as far as I couldn't tell you last time we had a babysitter.
Okay.
And if we do, it's like, okay, we need at least 2 babysitters and the kids need to be separated, one at this person's house and one here, and it's almost like, is all of that worth it? You know, like is the stress of it? And so it's really difficult. Yeah, we don't get a whole lot of time after they go to bed. My kids are still young enough where they can go to bed kind of early, and so after they go to bed, but by that point you're just like ready to shower and pass out in bed.
I understand. Like what I'm hearing is, and what we already know is, respite care is needed. I think a lot of people don't understand that that's a part of foster care. Even when you become licensed, you do not have to take on permanently. Sometimes it could just be for a weekend. Sometimes it could just be for a short amount of time. I think it's important for our listeners to know that it's an amazing way for them to be a support system to those who are fostering. Just maybe 5 hours. You know, maybe not a whole weekend, but maybe like for date night. So I hope y'all listening. I hope my listeners are paying attention because I'm going to do an episode or another podcast on that specifically. There's some highlight reels though. I appreciate your transparency. I wanted people to see the ins and outs or hear the ins and outs of everything. But let's talk about some highlight reels. Let's talk about some of the rewarding aspects of fostering.
I think a big one that comes to mind for me is just the growth in your children. And I think in the day-to-day, sometimes it's really difficult to see that. And then you look back at the big picture. Without sharing too much information about my kiddo, but he really struggled to a point where when he was in kindergarten and first grade, was unable to eat breakfast or lunch in the cafeteria. It was too overstimulating. Behaviors, we're standing on the tables, we're throwing food, things like that, to getting a picture of him where he's now a cafeteria helper. And and so just the learning and growing and maturing that has come through different services, through stable environment, growth in specifically our youngest kiddo, from foster care, just seeing that as a reminder that you need when you're in the difficult days of progress and successes look different, but there is progress that's being made in your kiddos and in their lives, and truly looking at the big picture of like futures changed, lives changed because of a different environment.
Okay. Taylor, you want to piggyback on that?
Sure.
Okay.
That is a huge one. Because like Kristen said, like our aha moments, our successful moments are so different from, I feel like, your normal family that's, we don't get to experience some of those same things. So I know for my oldest daughter, like her watching her be able to learn what a actual family looks like, even though it may be, not your normal family, her being able to start loving people and like being able to realize that not everyone is a bad person. Like I can have a mom that loves me and cares about me and like truthfully wants what's best for me. My other daughter, her just being able to see like what a healthy attachment looks like. She's actually going to a community college, even though it may not be the best scenario. It's something that's huge for her. That was huge growth.
Okay. So your kiddos, just for our listeners, are how old?
So I have a 20-year-old and I have a 24-year-old.
And Kirsten, yours are how old?
11, 5, 5. And then our biological kiddo is 6 months old.
Okay. That's like across the board.
Yes.
Baby, middle school, young adult.
Yes.
So that's a lot happening right there. What would you say? I know we've already talked about time, meaning like stepping away and
Yeah.
needing that time. But Taylor, what would you say is maybe another situation, something that you face that you don't think is really publicly addressed enough or talked about on the less glamorous side of fostering that you wish people knew or had more insight on?
I wish people had more insight and understanding of like what foster care really entails. Like I think you see your fairy tale like thought process of it, you know, oh hey, you take this kiddo, I just get to pour love into them and they're great. Like no, our kiddos have like so many trauma responses and they may look differently each and every time in each and every kiddo. But people being able to understand that like it's not a behavior. You know, people look at it as, oh, like they're throwing things. That's just a behavior.
Or
They're a
it's not
bad
fair
kid.
to-
Right. It's
Yes.
deeper than that. It's a lot deeper
It's
than
so
that.
much deeper than that. Like you have to go through and you have to look at like what did they go through as a young child? What, you know, when they were at this placement or this foster home before, what did like were they grounded because they did those things? So being more understanding of like what it looks like to be trauma informed, understand what that behavior has a meaning. Let's get to the root of that issue to help them grow as a kiddo.
Okay. I love that. So regarding influence, how would what would the both of you say is maybe your hope to influence the foster care community as a whole moving forward?
I think for me, it would look like how can we better support those involved in the foster care community. And so all of our kiddos are now adopted. And so we are living and kind of grieving life post-adoption. I think sometimes people think like adoption solves everything. Like adoption does not erase trauma. And so we currently don't have any foster placements that are current. Our 3 older kiddos are all now out of foster care, but we're still living that, like, what does that look like post-adoption? What supports are available for you? Very, very minimal. And so just kind of how can we as a community support those involved in the foster care community? And I think we really lack that. And I think that leads to a lot of isolation for foster parents. And so I would hope that me, my husband, my family, we can be a support to foster families that maybe we ourselves did not get, because if you're not in it, you don't really get it.
Right.
There's certain things that I can talk to Taylor about that I would not be able to talk to
Anyone else
everyone
about
else
it?
about
Yes.
because Taylor is a foster parent and Taylor gets it. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. We are thinking of a host of things every day in the world that we live in. So I know I can think of 6 things right now, but like what would you say, or what would be your comment on how you would like to kind of influence the foster care community, Taylor?
Going off of this support, it's a support outside of our agency. So like we're all licensed, you know, through an agency. Yeah, you can call the caseworker, you can call your licensing worker, but it's more than that. Like when you've had a bad day and you want to just pick up the phone and you need to vent, like you want to vent to somebody that's not going to be like, oh my gosh,
Somebody
why
that
is
gets
your
it.
kid doing that? Why, like, what is that even? No, like I need that support for myself. Like, oh, you know, and sometimes I know this sounds silly, but like just saying like you are doing a good job. Like it's not just you, like, you know, you've got other people in your corner to support you. It's a different level of support. So it's how can we make that, like, even if it's a support group, like literally that meets once a month, that's just like our break, our time to ourselves.
Right.
Like, can we incorporate all
Child
of
care
those
providers.
things? Right. Can we make that happen? You know, where it is like maybe you go out and you eat dinner. Like we need the real support, the real deal, and not just the people that are gonna be like, oh, it's gonna get better within time. No,
Right.
like, we need that real support right then and there.
Yeah, hands-on, active
Yes.
support.
And I have always said, and it's something that I can get very worked up about, but I think everyone does play a role in the foster care community, and that does not look like everyone having a placement in their home, but that looks like being a good neighbor to those who do have placements in their home, whether it's a meal or respite, childcare. Hey, I'm gonna do homework with your kiddo tonight. Things like that. It's just that true support, like you said, outside of the agency, not your caseworker calling and checking in because And I mean, I was a caseworker, and all of my foster parents lied to me because now that I'm a foster parent, I'm like, every time I went to your caseworker asking how you're doing and you said great, I know you're not telling me the truth.
Because it's not the truth.
But
It's not
we're the
truth.
foster parents saying that to our caseworkers as well. And so it's just that true, genuine support that is hard to come by.
Okay. Any future goals that the both of you guys have for your family and the families you support?
I think right now our family truly is just working on different healings for our kiddos, and kind of what that looks like in order to bring healing to their mind,
Mhm.
their definition of family, stability. That yes, they've been in placement with us for over 3 years now, but that trauma, how that impacts their brain, and just the stability piece of that is something that that's kind of our focus right now in
Okay.
our family.
Any goals that you have, like right on the top of your head, that you know you would like to achieve?
Well, if you ask me, I'm not done. So like I want more, like, you know, when I was younger, I envisioned myself with like 6 kids running around. Like that's just how I felt.
Okay, so be more specific when you say you're not done.
I have thoughts as far as like, you know, we look at right now, like there's such a high need for our older
Mhm.
youth, like our teenagers, our kids that are like working on transitioning into adulthood. I would love to be able to support them in that way, whether it be that they live with me, whether it be that like we go sign up together for college, you
Okay.
know, we get your first job together, like
Right.
whatever that is to help them be able to transition into adulthood, because our teenagers, like sometimes they're just kind of left in the wind.
That's true.
And we think that, oh, because they're 18, they know what to do.
Mhm.
No, like we're talking about youth that have trauma. They didn't
Right.
get raised, you know, to learn how to fill out a job application. So that is my goal.
Okay, I like that because I know firsthand that support is needed past 18 through 21 and beyond for so many, and sometimes they're just kind of left to fend for themselves. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Words of wisdom for maybe those who are interested in being a support service to you, interested in diving into the foster parenting world. What's maybe some words of wisdom, encouragement, or just advice based upon your personal experience that you would like to share?
It's easy as foster parents to get caught up in the difficulty of all of it. But I think, and my husband and I talk about this often, we would say yes all over again. Seeing the progress, seeing the growth, the love for our kiddos, the difficulty is worth that. The hard yes is worth that. And so if foster care, foster parenting, supporting a foster family is something that you feel led to do, feel called to do. Yes, it's difficult. No, it's not trendy. It is a commitment, but commit to those youth. We need people to step in to the vulnerable, and those youth need our yes. And so I'd say that is our encouragement is, yes, you sit here and you hear very real and raw things, which is what I'm all about, but also I would say yes all over again, knowing the transformation that my kids would get to experience from that.
Okay. Taylor.
I think of our system, and it's a broken system. And so I don't want people to just think that it's nothing but negative and that they couldn't manage it because there's so many other people involved. You know, you have a judge that makes a decision at the end of the day. Making sure people really realize that, like, this is about this kiddo. Like, this kid, they need somebody. They need that one adult in their life that's going to overlook all of the other challenges and focus on them and what they need in order to feel loved, to be supported, and to grow.
I appreciate you guys chatting with me. Foster care never sleeps. Both of y'all know that. And so I know our schedules can get crazy. So I do appreciate you guys chatting with me, especially you coming over. I already know what's happening in our department. So again, thank you guys so much. If you are tuning in and plan on continuing to tuning in with us, I appreciate you watching. We love to share all the things about health and wellness, all the things about foster care community. There's so much more to come. I am your host, you guys, Carlika Span, right here in the studio of Anchor of Hope. And it has been amazing chatting with you ladies. I hope that you guys stay connected and join us again. Hey everyone, I'm Carlika Span.
And I'm Taylor Stockman.
We are a part of the amazing Spero foster care team right here at Spero Family Services, and we are excited about the possibility of partnering with you. We're looking for some amazing, compassionate heroes who are willing to open their hearts and their homes to children in need. Listen, if that is you and you think you would be an amazing fit, diving into foster care and parenting, it opens up so many opportunities and allows for these kiddos to thrive.
You won't be alone on this journey. We offer comprehensive support, training, and resources to empower you in providing the best care possible.
If you've ever felt the desire to make a difference, now is the perfect time to take action. Your commitment can create lasting change and bring joy to both you and a child. Let's light the way to brighter futures. One child, one family, one heart at a time. Please contact us for more information at sparrowfs.org. We can also be reached at 618-472-0618.